Welcome to Intelligent Human Leadership, leading yourself and your team. Do you ever find yourself grappling with a lack of confidence in your team? Or battling the relentless waves of concern and fear? Are the pressures to meet client expectations and the burden of missed opportunities weighing you down? On this podcast, you'll discover the strategies and insights that will reignite your team's morale and help you find the harmony and knowledge you seek to propel your business forward. Here, we explore innovative ways to reignite your creative spirit and achieve greatness, empowering you to lead with intelligence, compassion, and resilience. If you're ready to dive deep into your core of leadership challenges and be guided toward success, here's your host, founder of Steward Your Business, David Carr.
Welcome back to the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast. I am grateful and thankful for you, and that is going to be a focus of our episode today is gratitude and thankfulness, and where do we come from that? I just come from this past weekend was Memorial Day here. Those of you, most of my listeners in the United States, it is a time to recognize, appreciate, and honor the men and women that have given the greatest sacrifice, their lives for us, citizens here in the United States. Throughout the history of the United States, we pick one day a year to recognize them specifically, which is different than Veterans Day. It is us taking the time to remember, honor, appreciate those that have gone before us. And I want to tie this in to the framework you guys have heard me talk about before of body, being, business, and balance. Balance being our relationships. These are so important, so vital. And unfortunately, oftentimes, the relationships that are so vital, so important, we neglect. And how many times have we looked back longingly and said, man, I wish I would have said something to my mom or my dad or my children or my coworkers, and I don't have this chance anymore. I don't have this opportunity anymore because they're gone. One gentleman commented on one of my posts this morning, just commenting that is truly the case. We've missed the opportunity to celebrate this person in the flesh today, where they're around us. Of course, it is honorable, and I'll say wonderful. It's not. It is. Comes from a grateful heart and appreciation for those that have gone before us. I haven't been able to talk with those folks, but to go and remember them. My wife and I years ago made a decision to take our young children. Now they're teenagers, but we would go to a local Memorial Day event where we would take the morning to remember, to listen to music, listen to speakers, people that knew some of these individuals that have gone before us. Very intentional. But that's one day out of the year. How do you show up in showing gratitude and appreciation for those in your immediate circle of influence? That's started radiating it out from you, your spouse, your children, radiating it out from there, your coworkers, your community. How are you showing up on a daily basis? Because what I have found in following the core four, which you guys have heard me talk about a little bit before, in the quadrant of balance or relationships, there's a way that I track this in my app every day, very intentionally. Am I showing up with gratitude and appreciation for those around me? Because what has happened, at least for me, as it's gotten away. It's gotten away from me, and then those people that I truly do love and appreciate, they do not feel it, they do not hear it, they're not recognizing that. And we may know in our own minds, I believe it, but it is intentionality in how we show up and care for those around us. There's this challenge of connectivity more than ever today. We have, right, all this technology. I talked about that in a previous podcast episode. You guys can go back and look at that just the challenge of the communication, and with all these different forms of communication and how we're listening or not listening to each other. But I want to encourage you today as we go through this podcast. I'm going to give you some practical tools that you can do every day to make sure that you're starting off your day in power, clarity. And how many of you ever, heard the phrase, I've started the day on the wrong foot, where it just seems like one thing after another does not go your way? Well, we can change that. What we're here on the podcast to do is help you be that most important and intelligent human leader, leading yourself and leading others. When you do that, when you show up in that way, I'm telling you, it will pay dividends. We're not doing it just for, this for me. It naturally comes. When you do this, your life is going to be richer, and those around you, their lives are going to be richer. So just recognizing that we forget it, especially men. We are conquerors. We kind of go in there. At least this was for me, where early on in my marriage, I got married, had a young daughter, and a few years later, my son was born. I was on the career path. I was working hard, and this is why I created Steward Your Business, to help anybody, but particularly men, because I've been there. Guys, I know what it's like to have gone in your career, you're growing, and then you're like, oh man, you look up and you're like, man, I haven't dated my wife in a while. I haven't been intentional. I've been more accidental in the way that I'm showing up for my family. I'm being accidental in, it may happen that I show up for something, or it may happen that I share words of affirmation. If you've ever heard of 5 Love Languages, it's a great book. There's different elements of ways of showing love. And oftentimes we show love in the way that we like to be loved. So for me, my primary way is physical touch and words of affirmation. So I often show love that way. Think about how you're showing up and showing appreciation for others. Some people like gifts. Some people like acts of service. My wife, for example, loves quality time, just being there with her. But we can be intentional in the way we show up with gratitude, starting with ourselves and then turning that to others. We make these, think of it as like a bank account. If you continue to withdraw from your bank account all the time, your credit, if you will, right? Pretty soon you're going to be on empty. We cannot do that and have a sustaining bank account. We have to, yes, there's nothing wrong with withdrawals. We need that, but we need to be, in my opinion, more deposits than withdrawals. The more you're making deposits, and you make daily deposits, and this is how we gamify it using the Warrior app and incorporate this into the Steward Yourself program, which, and if you want to hear more, please reach out. I'm happy to talk more about that. But that being said, you don't have to use the app. You can go through and you can be intentional every day. I recommend that you look at your wife or children or spouse, husband, for you ladies listening in. Start there. Start daily deposits. Are you making daily deposits? Even with one person. I've started doing this even with my son recently, who's 15, and helping him, because there's always about things I want this, I want that. And we're all externally focused on the things that we want, instead of looking, from abundance of where we're at now, being thankful and appreciative of where you're at on your own journey, and how can you bless somebody else today? How can you spark a deposit without looking for anything in return? This is not about you getting something back. It's about you depositing. Now, I will say you will get something back, but that's not the intention. That's not why we're doing it. We're doing it because we know by being that outwardly focused, we're looking into somebody else, we're pouring into somebody else, by just literally that act of you're taking from your well, if you will, and you're pouring to somebody else. Now, if your well is dry, that's important, because you're going to have a challenge to be able to pour into somebody else. There's a whole another discussion. We can get into that part too. Today, I won't focus so much on that part of refilling your well, but here's how you can fill somebody else's well, where you can make that daily deposit. Now, this can be in different ways. Some people say, well, does it have to be the same way every time? No. Think about this. Think about the person you're reaching out to and you're sharing with. Now, one of the things I love personally about the Warrior app that I use is it literally has me go through prompts and questions and who am I who am I sharing gratitude or appreciation for? What's the story? What's the emotions? It's a wonderful tool and I use it every day. And that helps me get clarity as to the intent of and what I'm trying, the messaging that I'm trying to share. And I can literally share that stack as a text, as a link, as a PDF. It's a beautiful thing. It's wonderful to be able to share that. But you don't have to do that. And it doesn't always have to be that way. For those of you that follow with me on social media, and encourage you to connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn. These platforms are great because what they do often is they'll remind us of great celebrations. They'll remind us of birthdays. They'll remind us of things. And it's a great opportunity to look each day beyond your wife or your children, depending on if you're not married, maybe you don't have any children. Look for those people in your life that you can celebrate. So for me, one of the things I do very intentionally is I will leave a voice message. Sometimes I'll leave in a video message if I get really creative, but or just a text message, or and just let the person know I appreciate them. I'm thankful that they're in my life. For me, again, it comes from an outpouring of abundance from where I'm at, and it's a daily deposit. Now, again, I say start with your wife or start with your children. Because they're in your immediate life. And I think that is really important. And I've always kind of built there as my foundation. Hadn't done that. I was looking at other people at one point and I had to recalibrate. I'm like, well, what am I doing here? I realized, I needed to really show my wife how important and appreciative she was. Now, my wife particularly, again, you have to know their love language. You have to know what they appreciate. Now, some of them, somebody's going to love a text message. Some of them is going to love you sending a voice note. Maybe it's a handwritten note if you're fortunate to live with that person, right? But what it is it's just an intentionality where you're showing up and you're looking about how do they receive love. Is it saying I love you? Is it saying I honor you? Is it saying I appreciate you? You don't have to use the same words every time, but look at specific things. What are the aspects of their life that you appreciate? For those of you, we talk about this in the Steward Your Business, in this, in the business angle. What is that employee or coworker doing that helps you, that encourages you, that you see them showing up, and that you feel like that is a really important trait? Even sometimes if it feels negative, but like for example, have somebody that gives me feedback on, hey, I remember this one point in my career and I got defensive about it, but now I want to appreciate it. They were like talking about how things were off in a report and I didn't cite it right. And there's some things, but you know what? You can change the story. That's what I love about the Stack tool. And you guys can go back and listen to a couple episodes there about changing the story, changing the narrative, listen to the Stack where I do a deep dive there. However, look at and say you could change the story and like literally say, you know what? I appreciate the fact that you took the time and the energy to go through and look at this and give me constructive feedback so that I can improve, that I can show up more powerfully. When you do this, each day, what you're doing is you're building a solid foundation. And this combined with other elements of the core four, we're just talking one domain here, balance. There's the area of being and body and business. When we synergize this together, this gives you such a strong platform to start your day. If you do this early on in the day, which I recommend, if you can't, it's all right. But the more of the platform that you set here, just think about this. Think about the people that wake up intentionally each morning with gratitude and appreciation for those in their life. Remember I said earlier, starting on the wrong foot, how that can just cascade. Well, it can cascade in a good way the other way, where we start off the day on the right foot and that cascades. Now, either one can be interrupted. It's a matter about how you get back on. And that's the whole Stack tool, right? These are all integrated. I'm all about helping you live an integrated, holistic life where you're winning in all domains of life, where you're feeling like you're succeeding in your relationships, your most important relationships, your marriage, those with your children, those with your extended family, your coworkers. We hear about, again, how many days out of the year, right? You're like, this is the day of administrative assistants. This is the day of the pastor. This is the day of, right? Okay, it's one day a year, but I want you to encourage you can use those two to be a prompt at least to say, how can I show up and be grateful? But are you showing up and being grateful every day? Because I challenge you, if you're not, likely you're not being grateful for who you are inside. You're not appreciating where you're at in life and what you have to offer and give. And you cannot give out of an empty cup, if you will, like I said earlier. Now, I've talked about early on about stress and burnout. You guys go back to episode 4, my list here. I've looked about your desired story, shifting your story, how to shift that, and talked about a story with my son there. Go back and use those to help prompt you to redefine your story and get refilled up. Now, for me personally, I found a relationship with God, and having grown up, that I recognize that for me in the being domain, I'm not going to get too far into that today, but in the being domain, we talk about meditation, we talk about journaling, there's a whole other area, and stacking is part of that. So these, again, are interconnected. So when you tie these together, they're multiplicative. There we go. They're not additive. That's the power of living this way, Steward Yourself program that help get people into power and push them through. When I was asked, honestly, when I was thinking about how do I charge? What do I charge for this program? What does that look like? I had to come from a place of gratitude and knowing that what I could give was way more than what was going to, quote unquote, cost somebody, because I'm committed to helping them in their own journey just as I have. And I thought, well, what is that? And you hear these statements of 2x, 3x, whatever. If it is true and they've applied it, I believe it. I've seen it. Whatever you invest, you can multiply. And so the investment of gratitude and appreciation is so vital. This is nothing new. You guys have heard, hopefully, if you're on this far into the podcast, we're on the 24th episode. And if you have missed some of those other ones, I really encourage you to go back and listen to them. And I, again, welcome your feedback and comments. You guys, your interaction is so valuable to me, and the way that you share and encourage me too. Your words of affirmation mean something to me, and I really do appreciate that. So if you think like, I don't know if David needs to hear this, share it. If it's on your heart and you feel like it, and even if you feel like it might be a little challenging, if it's coming from a caring place and a kind place, I encourage you to share that. That's important. But we recognize this. It's nothing new in the sense of this gratitude and transformation. But what oftentimes people forget is they kind of do it as a one-time thing. And the reality is, or kind of make it a big thing, you're much better off making daily deposits. Daily deposits. It's kind of funny. I had the joke with some gentleman that I would work with or was in a Bible study with at one point. And we were talking about wooing our wives. And, the trip to Hawaii versus taking them on a date or doing, a caring action. These all, at the end of the day, yes, some may seem more grand than others, but reality is it's kind of like 1 point, if you will. Well, you did that. That's 1 point. Yeah, you did this is 1 point. The thing is additive. Power of additive and then multiplying. So when you think about that, it actually multiplies over time. At first, it seems like, okay, you just keep, if you double it, it's not making that much. But over time, it does. So if you said, 1 plus 2, or 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, and so on and so forth. So as we add these up, it'll become a multiplying effect. Now, here's the thing, though. If you stop the chain, it's kind of like, it doesn't go back to 0, but it certainly, it minimizes your effectiveness. And we don't want to do that. That's why we have this whole Live It All lifestyle, using the Warrior app, using these tools on a daily basis to help you stay in power, awake you, stay in power, and continue your momentum so that we can compress time and get you the results that you really want in all areas of your life. But certainly in balance, this is really, really important. I've seen where people have been truly estranged. I've seen people on the brink of divorce. I've seen people, in strained relationships at work. when you show up with gratitude and appreciation, and the other person's like, why are you appreciating me? Why? What is this? Because you've had a strained relationship and you're coming from a place of abundance. It's a game changer. It is a game changer. You're coming from a place of, hey, I've got love, appreciation, respect to give. Whether the other person does or not, that puts you in a place of power in a positive way. It puts you in a place not of a victim, but in a place of action. You're no longer, oh my goodness, they're doing this to me. This is happening to me. I'm frustrated with this person. I'm angry with this person. I'm telling you, if you can find something that you're grateful for in that person, it changes the game. It changes the story. And like I said, so it starts with, it's easy to start with hopefully easier to start with your wife or your husband, your children, because you love them, you have a deep connection relationship. Although I know, talking to many of you, this isn't always the case. However, start to build that bridge back. Start to be the one that leans in. You make the first move. You choose to show up in this way. You start to, like I said, build that up one layer at another. It will take time. And if there's deep wounding or hurt, don't get me wrong, oftentimes it's met with negativity, a snide remark, and they're not going to see that because they've been wounded by your past lack of gratitude, lack of love, lack of appreciation for this person. I was there, and I know how hurtful it was for me and to be in that place of disconnect. I don't want that for you, and I want you, again, to be that most intelligent human leader. Build on the connection. Build on this daily deposit. Start putting that in, whether or not the other person is responding. We're not worried about that. Don't care about that. I want you to do it because you know it's the right thing to do. It's put on your heart to show up and care for those people in your circle of influence. Doing this daily as part of our core 4, and this is how we gamify it. And if you want to learn more, please reach out to me. I'm happy to set up a time with you and go through it, give you a basic overview, and share more with you about the program. It's been transformational for me, and it's why I live this way. It's why I've included it. It's why I've been certified with Wake Up Warrior as a certified trainer, among all the other resources that I pull into the program. So I'm grateful for you guys listening today, number one. I appreciate you taking the time, and I want you to know that as you've invested this time with me, wherever you're listening to this today, know that it will reap blessings. Take that, and I poured into you. Hopefully you felt that love, appreciation, and gratitude for you, the listener, coming on to and choosing my podcast, all the podcasts out there, to know, number one, you have an advocate in me, David Carr of Steward Your Business, that I want to see you succeed, and that I want to help you along that way, and that you have somebody else that you can talk to and you're not alone. And we can build that reservoir back up if it is down. And number two, take that reservoir as you build it up and bless those around you. Your wife, your children, your husband, your coworkers, your pastor, your community, whoever those are in your sphere of influence. And together we can make this a much, much better world. Today we know that people are hurting. So many people are hurting. And you don't know how much that kind word or consideration will have reverberating effects. You can be that most intelligent human leader. And I appreciate you joining me on this journey with intelligent human leadership. Please like and subscribe, follow along, share with those that you feel it would benefit. Leave a 5-star review on Apple. This is all helpful for me, and I appreciate that you would take the time to do that. But nonetheless, my ultimate call to you today is live in a place of gratitude and appreciation, loving who you are and all that God has created you, sharing that with others, recognizing that they're a gift in your life, and you will be so much better off for it. Until the next episode, thank you for listening. I am so grateful you're here. Take care.